The gavel of global justice is under siege. Washington threatens sanctions that could cripple the International Criminal Court. Israel's allies warn of destruction if warrants stand. West African nations walk away, calling it a neo-colonial tool. The ICC now faces the greatest test of its survival. The United States is weighing sweeping sanctions against the International Criminal Court, a move that could disrupt the tribunal's basic operations. According to 6 people familiar with the discussions, as per Reuters, the Trump administration is considering designating the ICC itself for so-called entity sanctions, escalating from earlier measures that targeted individual prosecutors and judges. Court officials in The Hague have already convened emergency meetings, and diplomats from member states have also gathered to assess the potential fallout. One US official confirmed that entity-wide sanctions are under review, but offered no details on timing. A State Department spokesperson accused the ICC of asserting jurisdiction over American and Israeli personnel, and said Washington would take additional steps to protect national interests unless the court made what were described as structural changes. If imposed, the measures could freeze access to banking, software, and even payroll. In anticipation, ICC staff have been paid their salaries through the end of 2025, and the court is exploring alternative financial and technology providers. The court recently indicted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and leaders of Hamas over alleged crimes in the Gaza conflict. Similar investigations have looked into US actions in Afghanistan, drawing long-standing criticism from Washington. At the United Nations this week, diplomats from several of the court's 125 member states are expected to push back. A senior diplomat noted that individual sanctions had run their course, adding that the question now is when rather than if Washington escalates. Founded in 2002, the ICC is recognized by its members as the world's court for genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. The International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, was warned earlier this year that he and the court would be destroyed if arrest warrants against Israeli leaders were not withdrawn. Middle East Eye reported that the message was delivered in May by Nicholas Kaufman, a British-Israeli defense lawyer at the court, who said he had been authorized to convey a proposal from a Netanyahu advisor. According to a note of the meeting seen by the publication, Kaufman urged Khan to reclassify the warrants and related information as confidential. This would have allowed Israel to access the allegations and contest them behind closed doors. Kaufman also cautioned that if further warrants were sought for Israeli ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich over settlement activity in the West Bank, no options would remain on the table.
They will destroy you, and they will destroy the court. I do not deny that I told Mr. Khan that he should be looking for a way to extricate himself from his errors. I am not authorized to make any proposals on behalf of the Israeli government, nor did I.
Kaufman later acknowledged telling Khan he should find a way to extricate himself from what he called errors, but he denied being authorized to make proposals on behalf of the Israeli government. Khan and his wife, who attended the meeting, both confirmed the remarks were taken as a threat. Netanyahu's office has not commented. The ICC has already issued warrants for Netanyahu, Gallant, and Hamas commander Mohammed Daif on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, the United States has announced new sanctions on ICC officials. Secretary of State Marco Rubio described the court as a national security threat, while the ICC denounced the move as a flagrant attack on judicial independence. Three West African nations, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, have announced their withdrawal from the International Criminal Court, calling it a neo-colonial institution. In a joint statement, The military-led governments in Bamako, Ouagadougou, and Niamey accused the Hague-based tribunal of serving as an instrument of imperialism and failing to prosecute the gravest international crimes. The decision follows a series of coups between 2020 and 2023 that brought juntas to power in the three countries. Since then, they have drawn closer politically and militarily, forming a confederation and aligning with non-Western partners, including Russia. The government said they intend to establish their own regional mechanisms for peace and justice. Under the Rome Statute, a withdrawal from the court takes effect 1 year after notification to the United Nations. Until then, the ICC retains jurisdiction over crimes committed on their territory. The move comes as the three states struggle with widespread insecurity. Insurgencies linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State have killed thousands, while the national armies themselves face accusations of abuses against civilians. The announcement coincides with growing pressure on the ICC from outside Africa. In Washington, officials are weighing entity-wide sanctions that could undermine the court's basic functioning. Such measures would cut off access to banking, software, and procurement, while deterring cooperation from international partners who fear exposure to US penalties. Diplomats and human rights organizations warn that the combination of state withdrawals and sanctions could weaken international justice at a time when accountability for atrocities is most needed. Member states are considering measures under European law to shield the court, but the reach of US financial sanctions would be difficult to counter. For the ICC, founded to prosecute genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, these parallel challenges mark a critical test of its independence and resilience. The sanctions could bar ICC staff and collaborators, including member state contributors, NGOs, and expert witnesses, from US travel and freeze their assets in the US or in banks exposed to the US financial system, causing personal hardships and deterring cooperation. The move may put pressure on international banks and service providers in the Netherlands and elsewhere to sever ties with the ICC, as violating US sanctions risks severe penalties, further increasing its diplomatic and operational isolation. Human rights organizations and evidence-gathering partners are likely to suspend collaboration with the ICC, undermining investigations and casework due to fear of US retaliation. Investigations involving the US and its allies, including Israel, could stall or collapse if financial and operational blockages persist. Member states are reportedly considering legal and financial measures to shield the ICC within Dutch and European law, but the US's financial reach makes such mitigation challenging.